Pastor Ryan Snyder from Grace Lutheran Church of Vine Grove will be here for our invocation. Pastor?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Let us pray. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless us with your presence this day, grant us your Spirit that we may live in your wisdom and will, and help us to appreciate all of your great and many benefits which you bestow upon us every single day, especially our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Help us to walk in his way, that we may live according to your good and gracious will, and shed his forgiveness upon others as well. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. We get the Pledge of Allegiance today by Vine Grove resident, retired Army Major Alejandro Ramirez, a 2018 veteran, and he has a small business, the owner of Small Business of the Year in Commonwealth of Kentucky. Come on up, please, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We have a national anthem today presented by Pastor Ryan and Felicia Snyder from Grace Lutheran Church of Vine Grove.
Please stand. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. Now I call up our Vine Grove Mayor, Mayor Pam Ogden, for her welcome.
Welcome everybody to Vine Grove. We've had an exciting day today. Sorry I didn't get to meet a lot of you all because I kind of skidded in from a softball game that was amazing that we had to play. It's hard to believe that a year ago today I was standing here making a speech trying to get this job, and it has probably been the best year of my life. Just saying that I have a village is a major understatement. The city of Vine Grove, we've came leaps and bounds, I think, in the last 9 months. It's been 9 months now. We've had successful First Fridays. I think our event today speaks for itself. And I'm excited that you are in a town, a place that we are very proud of. So I welcome you all. I hope to see you all have success in your next adventures. And if you ever need anything, you can come to Vine Grove and we'll take care of you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor. And for you all that were here last year, I mean, we were packed. We had our county and local elections last year, and so we had 26 candidates that were here last year, and there was no room to even stir around in last year. It was so busy. So, Mayor, thank you, and we wish you much success in the next 3 years to come. So, we're glad to have you all here today. I'm Bryce Shoemate from Hardin County Government. I'm your MC today. And next up, we'd like to have our magistrate for our area, Gary King, come up.
Thank you, folks. I am Gary King. I represent the 8th District of Hardin County, made up mainly of Vine Grove and a major portion of Rineyville. Very proud to be here with you today. Thank you for being here. And I just want to say to the candidates that are here and to those folks that are here to speak on behalf of candidates, thank you very much. Thank you for getting involved. It takes a lot of guts to fill out that piece of paper. And then it takes a lot of work to get to the point that you are actually in office, raising your hand and taking office. I'm in my 17th year as magistrate. I have enjoyed being the magistrate for this district. I represent a wonderful bunch of people. If you'd been here earlier today, you could have learned just over here a lot about magic. They had a magic show. We as politicians sometimes know about magic shows. You could have also learned to do the electric slide. We as politicians know about the electric slide. Sometimes we do it. Folks, I appreciate your coming to Vine Grove today. I thank you. I hope you have a good experience here. God bless you and safe travels. Good luck in your endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you, Magistrate King. We're going to start off with the candidates for governor. And the first person that we have on the list, oh, I'm sorry, Darren Rose. Come on up from the Blue Rose. Darren?
Well, I'm not a candidate for anything, so don't worry, you don't have to vote for me. But I just have been asked to talk a little bit about small business here in the community of Vine Grove. For those of you that aren't familiar with me, my name is Darren. I own the Blue Rose downtown. And a little bit of background about the Blue Rose, I started it out of my house about 3 years ago, a little less than 3 years ago. And about a year and a half later, we decided we needed some office space. We had grown, and so we found a place downtown Vine Grove. And it quickly became it quickly became known that we needed to open a store, that just making it an office was not going to be enough for the community. And in those, we opened in 2018, and in that year and a half, not even quite a year and a half, I was voted the Young Entrepreneur of the Year. Our store was just recently named the best boutique in Hardin County. And I say all that not to brag on myself, but to brag on our community of Vine Grove. And the community of Vine Grove has just wrapped its arms around a small business. We have expanded the downtown. We've started the First Friday events like the mayor mentioned. And it's just been amazing. A town of, 5,000 people or so has just wrapped its arms around something and boosted it. And I'll tell you what, it costs $75 to get a business license in the city of Vine Grove. And that $75 has been the best money I've ever spent in my life. And I just want to thank the community. And if anybody is interested in expanding business even more in the city of Vine Grove, I'd love to talk with you. And I know the mayor would love to talk to you. And it's just a wonderful community, and we are so thankful for them. And we just wanted to brag on it for just a little bit. So, all right, well, enjoy the rest of the program.
And speaking of expanding, Darren and Chris's family are expanding, as you all can tell. Congratulations to you all. I know you're excited about that. We are too. And I've got to give a little bit of kudos today. As being a retired police officer and former police chief of the city of Vine Grove, I've got to say that the police department, fire department softball game was won by the police department today, and Chief Mattingly is holding the winning cup back there in the back. And all of the proceeds from today's ball game goes to, and it goes to Rachel. That is so awesome. All right, we'll start off with our candidates for governor. And first up on our list is Andy Brushy, and I don't know that I see Andy Brushy in the audience. Next up is Matt Bevan, and I don't believe I see Matt Bevan in the audience either. Matt Bevan. John Hicks. Is John Hicks here? Well, come on down. This, ladies and gentlemen, John Hicks, candidate for governor.
Thank you. Thanks very much to the city of Vine Grove for inviting me. I believe sometimes it's hard to get the invites, when you're a third-party candidate. So we appreciate the fact that Vine Grove was even-handed about this. Good civic entity that it is, just like KET, for example. Oh wait, no, KET didn't invite me. I think they needed $100,000 in the bank to invite me. So somehow I'm getting the impression that money in politics is a problem. Well, anyway, my name is John Hicks. I'm the Libertarian candidate for governor. And again, thank you for having me here. I think I was just thinking on my dash down here, I'm still out of breath here, sorry. I've probably passed by Vine Grove a number of times. I haven't spent a lot of time here. I think the last time was 50 years ago when I spent 8 weeks across the way. Anybody know what that means? Yeah, basic training at Fort Knox, 1969. I was a draftee. I was asking them to let me stay the whole 2 years here in Kentucky, but they had other plans for me, so I did wind up in Vietnam for a while. I see that my two opponents, I don't see that they're here, so I guess you won't hear from them. Oh wait, I guess actually on a clear day, now that we don't have the big guns here at Fort Knox, on a clear day you could probably hear them from Fort Knox yelling at each other, right? That's part of what I'm running on. I've got 3 planks that Ann and I are running on, and one of them is civility. I think you see in this particular campaign, and you've seen it in other campaigns as well, that there's a certain psychology that seems to fall into politics where you have to be hating on the opponent, and the whole idea, rather than try to get people to like you, to want to vote for you, you have to inspire people to hate the other side. This is the problem we have, I think, with the two-party system in general. I think we've seen it before this year, but this year is a good example of it. So, as I say, one of my planks that I'm running on is civility. I think both Ann and I have a background in business where we know that you can't get anything accomplished if you're yelling at each other. You have to bring people together, form a team, gather the facts, and make intelligent decisions. So you can count on us to do that. I started my career off out of the gate as a school teacher. I'm the only one of the three candidates for governor that has that experience, and I think that's going to be a valuable experience as governor. I also spent 10 years I actually founded and published a community newspaper over in Fern Creek, Kentucky. Did that for 10 years. And that was a great way to learn how communities operate and how what makes our society, I guess, operate. What makes for a good society? The importance, for example, of civic organizations and churches and schools. And I've spent most of my career in IT. I started out as a computer programmer at General Electric Supplies Park on mainframes, going through all the successive revolutions, the PC revolution, the mobile phone, the smartphone revolution, the big data revolution, and so forth. So when you have me as governor, I'll be a tech-savvy governor, I promise. My 3 planks are, Ann and I are running on 3 planks, and they are liberty, civility, as I mentioned, and election reform. Ann, I know, is going to speak on liberty. I won't dwell on that, but I got 1 minute. Okay, so I'll skip forward to election reform. Not something you hear a lot in politics. It's not a real sexy term. But the two-party system, I think one of the biggest problems we have today is the polarization or political polarization. And the second problem would be complete alienation, where people are dropping out of politics. I think a lot of that is simply due to the way that we hold our elections. So I'm proposing two measures to reform the way we hold our elections. First step is, both of them use something called ranked choice voting, where you go to the polls one time, but instead of voting for your favorite candidate, you vote for your first choice, second choice, third choice. Okay? First step would be to have what we call instant runoff voting, where if you don't have, basically it's the same thing as a runoff election, except that you don't have to go back to the polls. You simply drop the last candidate off and recount the ballots. That would really be a huge step towards reforming our election system, and it would give third parties like us a much better chance. Second, can I finish my sentence here? Second step is what we call proportional representation using single transferable votes. You vote the same way, first, second, third choice, but you have multiple multi-member districts. You're not so that you elect a series of office holders that represent a cross-section of all the voters. That would help people, I think, in our diverse society. That would be really, really important to make everybody feel like they're a part of the system, which I think is a big problem right now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Next up are our candidates for Lieutenant Governor. Ralph Alvarado, Ann Cormican. Did I mispronounce your last name? Okay, good. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Ann Cormican, and I am the Libertarian candidate for Lieutenant Governor. I am a mom. I have two wonderful daughters, 21 and 12, and I'm an auto worker, so I don't get to speak in front of people very often, so I'm really nervous. First and foremost, I want to thank Mayor Pam Ogden for inviting us. Like John said, it's difficult, even though the Libertarian Party is the third largest party in Kentucky. I'm not a member of the political class, and it's getting more and more difficult to participate in the political process. I am truly a grassroots candidate. So I'm an auto worker with a family, didn't want to run, but I'm not happy with the way things are run in Frankfort. And it's just been in a decline for at least 3 decades. And I can't continue to vote for these limited choices. Voting for the lesser of two evils has given us nothing more than a declining quality of choices. And when you vote for these candidates, you are mandating their policies. They don't, if you feel like you're voting for the lesser of two evils, they don't see that. They see, oh, you voted for me? All right, you're on my team. And if you stay home and don't vote because you don't like anybody, they just see it as that you don't care. That's why it's important to have that third party choice, because that's how you tell those two political parties that you are not happy with the way they're doing things in Frankfort. I have friends that are veterans. I have friends that have died of cancer. Our military are dying from their own hand. We're losing more military, more veterans, more soldiers from suicide than from this endless war. Cannabis legalization has been proven to help people. A cancer patient that's being bombarded with radiation and chemicals, and they're telling them, oh, but don't use cannabis, that's not safe. Really? Come on, it's abuse. Monday, it should be decriminalized so that we can help people. In my workplace, it's very diverse. I work with people from all over the state, Ashland, Louisville, Paris, Georgetown, Lexington, and I've learned a lot. I've learned more in my 25 years at Toyota than I ever gained from my college degree. And we get things done. We work together. We all have differing views. We even talk politics, but we don't argue about it. We just discuss things because, I've known them for 25 years. I love my coworkers. Same with my neighbors. We're a neighborhood. I won't let media, social media, news media tell me what to fear or what to hate because I know the people around me are good people. I love my neighbors and my coworkers, and while I may not understand their views or their way of life, I believe we can love completely without complete understanding. That's why I'm running, because I want to improve things for the state. Thank you.
I believe if we'd been the magic show today, we'd been a little bit more popular. At least they're louder over there. It is my understanding that one of our lieutenant governor candidates had come up. Is it Jacqueline Coleman that is here? Come on up.
You gotta always love the timekeeper. They always want to make sure to keep you on time when you're here. So good to be here, Vine Grove. Thank you for having me. My name's Jacqueline Coleman, and I'm running for lieutenant governor with Andy Beshear. I am from Mercer County, Kentucky, which is Harrodsburg. And my most recent position in education was as an assistant principal at Nelson County High School right down the road. You're going to hear a lot of politics today, and I would like to talk to you a little bit about a story that has some interwoven politics, but really it's about why we run for office, and it's about what got me into this and why I fight for the next generation of kids. So I'm going to share that with you today. I've been a teacher and a basketball coach my whole career. And about 7 years ago, I had a young lady come into my classroom and ask me for a basketball schedule. She was a freshman. I had no idea who she was. And so I gave her a schedule, and she went on her way. And I did not think another thing about it until a couple weeks later when my phone rang. And it was this young lady. Her name's Emma. And Emma says, "Coach, I don't have anywhere to go." And I said, "What do you mean you don't have anywhere to go?" And she's explained to me that she had bounced from house to house her entire life. And when I asked her about her parents, she said that her mother had a drug problem and she didn't really know her father. And that made the challenges that we face in Kentucky very real for me very fast. And so my husband and I got in the car, and as I put on my seatbelt, I looked at him and I said, "Now you know what's about to happen, right?" And he did. And long story short, within an hour, Emma was in the back seat of our car with a bag of clothes, and none of us knew what was about to happen. She read on a third grade level as a freshman in high school. She had a 1.2 GPA, and as you might imagine, as a child that's bounced from house to house, didn't have a whole lot of discipline and accountability, and surely did not have a value for public education. So to have that move in with two basketball coaches, that was an interesting transition for all of us. So my husband and I worked really hard, but we couldn't have done it on our own because two people cannot overcome the challenges that Emma faced alone. And I will tell you, those first 2 years were really hard. They were very, very hard. But the good news is after a couple of years, I saw Emma start to turn a corner. And I started to see her become the young woman that I thought she could be. And very, very long story short, she became the first person in her biological family to graduate from high school. She tripled her GPA, which means that she graduated with honors. She doubled her ACT score. She broke every single basketball record, girls and boys, along the way. And I got to sit beside her the day that she signed her Division I basketball scholarship to play at Texas A&M in Corpus Christi, which is where she is today. So thank you. So 7 years later, this child who couldn't read, who was in the cycles of poverty and joblessness and addiction, and worst of all, a lack of education to be able to break all of those cycles. That young lady is preparing, well, she started her senior year of college. Last year she was all conference and an MVP on the basketball team. She's on the dean's list, and when she graduates, she will begin a career in nursing. And if she were standing right here today, she would tell you that she is where she is because of her teachers. You do not walk into high school reading on a third grade level and graduate with honors between the hours of 8 and 3. As a teacher, I can tell you we wish it was that easy, but it's not. Her teachers came in early and they stayed late and they showed up at her ball games and they believed in her, and for the first time in this child's life, a community invested in her because they saw the same charisma and light and potential in her that I saw. Because that's what we do as teachers. We see the kids that are a little tough to handle and might be a little rough around the edges. We have to see through that and we have to pull the best out of them. And so as a teacher, you can imagine the last few years of this administration and the way that they've treated all Kentuckians, but certainly the way they've treated public servants and public school teachers has really rubbed me the wrong way. Because those same people that saved Emma's life are the people that this governor has referred to as thugs and ignorant people and drowning victims that need to be knocked out and dragged ashore. That is not the kind of Kentucky that we should be, and that certainly is not the kind of Kentucky we should create for our kids and the next generation of Kentuckians. Thank you. And so this November, the choice is clear. The time is upon us. We're 45 days away, but the choice is very clear, and I hope that you remember when you go to the ballot box to vote, you take some friends with you and you tell people how important it is to vote. But you also remember that there's not a better team to take on Matt Bevin than the guy he can't beat and a public school teacher. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we've got our county clerk, Debbie Donnelly.
Good afternoon. I'm Debbie Donnelly, your Hardin County Clerk. I'm in my second term. And I have to say, I work for you all. I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant. And when you take office, you work for the people. You set politics aside and you work for the people, and that's what I do. Pete asked me to speak on voter registration today, so I'm going to hit a few highlights. Registering to vote. You can go to govoteky.com or you can go to www.hccoky.org and register to vote there. The age limit in Kentucky is 18, but if you're 17 and you're going to be 18 on or before the November 5th election, you can register to vote and you can vote in the May primary. Yes, the May primary is over with, but you really don't realize how many people does not know that a 17-year-old can vote in a May primary. So that's something that you all need to get out and talk about and let those young folks know. Change of address. When you register to vote, it asks for the address where you live. And if you get your mail somewhere else, then it asks for you to put that address where you receive your mail. But as far as your voter registration, you put where you actually live, where you lay your head down of the nighttime, okay? Change of party, that is December the 31st. Now, if you change your party after that date, you are not eligible to vote in the May primary. So you have to remember by December the 31st, change that party, okay? Where to vote, your precinct, you can go to our site. Again, www.hccoky.org. It'll give you your precincts where you go vote. Jump on our site because we have so much information on there. And besides talking about voter registration day, our site, we have deeds back to 1958. And my goal is to go back to 1793 and get it all on there. And we do not charge for our site. So go on there and look our site over because it's for you to use. ID, what can you use when you go to vote at the precinct? Driver's license, Social Security card. Even though Social Security card does not have your picture, That's one thing you can use. Credit cards, you can use a credit card. Or if you have a government ID, you can use a government ID also. Okay? And then the last day to register to vote is October the 7th. So if you know someone that is not registered to vote, please get them to the county clerk's office or jump on those sites, because it's so much easier. If you need to change your address, you need to change your name, you can do that all on those 2 sites, okay? Absentee voting will start October the 14th and run through November the 4th. That'll be Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So you can come in our office and vote, and they changed the law last year. Age, illness, or disability can now come into our office and vote. Okay, so everybody says, well, what do you consider age? I said senior citizen. So if you're senior citizen or you know someone, bring them by our office starting October the 14th and let them go ahead and vote. That I'm so glad they passed that law. And of course, I'm working on some laws too to get first responders. I would love to see first responders and your medical people to be able to vote early also. And it's early voting. I know no one likes to hear early voting, but for those people, they never know when they're going to be called in that day to work. So to me, we need to get that passed also. So I'm working diligently on that too. So again, the election's November the 5th. If you need to call me, 270-765-6762. Give me a call. You have any questions, and I'm always there. Remember, you should work together, forget the politics, and be a public servant to each and every one. Thank you.
Debbie, I'm tickled that you're working on that for first responders. Many of y'all don't know that EMS and fire work a 24-hour shift, and Sheriff Ward will tell you, many of our law enforcement officers, you go from call to call to call during your whole shift, and you may not get to vote either. So thank you for doing that. Next up, we've got Lacey Rice to talk to us about tax reform. Lacey?
Good afternoon. My name is Lacey Rice Jr. And actually, I'm not here to talk about tax reform. I'm actually here to talk to you about my position in dealing with the IRS. I am one of 2 people in the state of Kentucky who is a member of what's known as the Taxpayer Advisory Panel. What we do is we take recommendations from you, the public, and we give those, well, we actually work on those recommendations on things like forms, toll-free phone lines, and other products and services that the IRS provides to the public. And like I said, we work on them and we send them up to the IRS for implementation. We are appointed by the Secretary of the Treasury, and we serve 3-year terms. In fact, if any of you are interested in doing something like this, I'm coming to the end of my first year, so I'll have 2 more years, and someone will need to step up to represent the fine people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And so, if you're interested, please let us know. I'm actually giving pamphlets and other information to you, and some of the information I'm giving is also for the Taxpayer Advocacy Service. That particular service, they actually stand up for you, the taxpayers, if you have problems with your taxes, your refunds, anything like that. You will have that information to contact the IRS local taxpayer advocate. The one that represents this area is up in Louisville. And you could actually go in their office and speak to them, and they will go to bat for you. So please do not leave this area before you get one of these from me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacey. Next up, candidates for Secretary of State. I haven't seen Heather French Henry here. Is she here? Michael Adams. Okay. Candidates for Attorney General. I don't believe I've seen Greg Stumbo here. No cowboy boots. Daniel Cameron. I haven't seen Daniel here. Next up, we're going to bring Sheriff John Ward up. Come on up, Sheriff.
I tell you, not that I wouldn't want to see Heather here. I'm awful glad she's not, because that'd be a hard act to follow for me. Thank you, Bryce. Bryce said I am John Ward, and Mayor, like you said, last year we were both up here campaigning, and you for your first term, me running for re-election, and I tell you what, it feels a whole lot better this year, doesn't it? It sure does. But talking about Vine Grove, Vine Grove's a beautiful place and always will hold a special place in my heart. If you were here last year, remember me talking about I started my law enforcement career. I hate to age myself, but maybe a little over 35 years ago, I started out as a patrolman here in Vine Grove. I was 21 years old, and the chief and mayor gave me a chance, and they knew at the time when they hired me that I was in line to get on the state police, but they took me in and treated me good, and Vine Grove will always be special to me. Last year, when Pete called me, I thought, gosh, I'm not running this year, but he wanted me to talk about some things I talked about last year that we were changing at the sheriff's office, and I know if you go back on HCEC-TV, and thank you all for being here today, and look, I told you that we currently have 2 school resource officers and would soon have 3 in Hardin County. Well, I'm happy to report to you today that we currently have 9 SROs serving in Hardin County. And that's great, I think. It's sad to think we need that, but as a father of a 12-year-old that's sitting right out there, I'm glad to have them in the schools. I wish we had somebody in every school. Not only for the safety part of it, but it's for the kids to get to know law enforcement, be familiar with law enforcement. And but we have 9 fully trained, POP certified deputies. And that's, not just hiring somebody off the street. That's a certified police officer working in our schools. 7 of these SROs are in the Hardin County School District. 2 are at Elizabethtown Community and Technical College. And the last legislative session, our state lawmakers passed legislation mandating SROs in schools. But one thing they forgot, and I wish somebody would remind them, they forgot the funding. It's easy to make a law, but need to have a little funding so school districts and law enforcement agencies can put people in there. But I'm proud to tell you that in the Hardin County Schools, Elizabethtown Community and Technical College, and your Hardin County Sheriff's Office consider safe schools a top priority, and we always will. And we've partnered together to accomplish this mission. Because we're not doing it as a sheriff's office. We're not accomplishing having 9 SROs in the schools by ourselves. We're partnered with the schools, and I'm very proud of this partnership. It's something that I've had sheriffs from all over the state call me and ask me how we manage to do that and get ideas on how they can accomplish that in their county. Also, our deputies that are working the road, just on-duty deputies, they also stop at our schools on a regular basis, all over the county. And do what we call a school check, and it's just a random time. But I think anytime you see a police car pulling up around the school, and not being called there is a good thing. Additionally, we've added a K-9 unit here recently, and for my first term, we attempted to get a dog, but getting a trained dog is very expensive. Not only just for the dog, but the equipment you have to have for the dog. But we've recently acquired a excellent K-9 that's also it's a it's a drug dog and a tracking dog. And we've recently found out we're getting another dog through a veterans program. We have a deputy that's a veteran, and we're getting it through that program. And so we'll have 2 dogs here in Hardin County, and they'll both be, thank you, they'll both be tracking dogs and drug dogs. We've already used our 1 dog in the schools and checking parking lots, doing things like that. Anything we can do to make the schools safer. That's definitely priority number 1. Now to change the subject a little bit. Not wanting to bring up something bad, but everybody knows what time of year it is. It's getting close to tax time, and time to pay those property taxes. And contrary to what some people think, the sheriff has to pay property taxes too. I don't get a pass just because I'm sheriff. It hurts me every year, but every year since I've been in office, in the month of November, we do what we call mobile tax collection. We go normally 10 locations across Hardin County, which Hardin County is a big county, and we go to 10 different locations. This has been a big program. People really appreciate it. And we've been to Vine Grove every year. We'll be in Vine Grove in November. We'll post that on our Hardin County Sheriff's Office Facebook page. Also, Chief New always puts it on a sign there at the fire station, and we'll also have this in the paper, letting everybody know the times and locations that we're going to be in their area. Talking about Vine Grove, as I said when I first started, Vine Grove's a beautiful town, and I talked about starting out as a police officer here. Vine Grove has an outstanding police department. We work with them on a regular basis, and but they have a great police agency, and the mayor knows that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but and that's one thing about here in Hardin County. Every law enforcement agency works together, because as everybody knows, law enforcement budgets don't grow very fast. So we have to work together. So we're very fortunate here in Hardin County that we do that. That's all I have. I want to thank you for coming out today, and appreciate everybody that's running for office. Thank you for giving up of your time to do that, to serve. Thank you.
John, I thought when you said it's getting close to that time of year that you were talking about Christmas, knowing the Christmas person that I am. I thought, maybe that's what you were talking about, that you were in that giving nature. I didn't know it was going to be that kind of giving that we were talking about. All right. So much for the bad news. Candidates for Commissioner of Agriculture, Robert Haley Conway. Don't see Robert Haley Conway. Josh Gilpin. And next up, we've got a representative for Ryan Quarles, Gus Herbert, will be speaking on his behalf.
I want to thank Pete and the rest of the committee for putting this together. I've actually known Pete now for about 5 years. Used to work in that old jewelry store. I wonder if people still go by that on Dixie Highway there. My name is Gus Herbert, and I am the campaign manager for Ryan Quarles. Ryan Quarles is our current Commissioner of Agriculture, got elected in 2015. Just a little bit about Ryan. Ryan's a 9th generation Kentucky farm kid from just down the road in Scott County. Like many of you all here and many across the state, he grew up on a tobacco farm, soy, wheat, some cattle as well. And his story is a lot like the story of Kentucky agriculture, because 20 years ago, there were over 100,000 Kentucky tobacco farmers, and it was the king of the cash crops. It put people through college, just like Ryan. It paid for mortgages. And then we all know what happened. In the last 20 years, we've gone from 100,000 Kentucky tobacco farms to less than 5,000. And just like that, Kentucky agriculture has had to change. But because we decided to diversify, Kentucky still has over 76,000 small family farms, which provide the backbone to our $46 billion of economic activity across the state. Ryan farmed with his dad, put him through college and then law school. He got elected to the Kentucky General Assembly in 2010, served there for 5 years, and then for the last 4 years has been serving as Kentucky's Commissioner of Agriculture. Ryan fights for farmers every single day, for fighting for international trade for our markets, including many farmers right here in Harmon County, to industrial hemp. I know everyone's heard about that over the past couple of years. We're sincerely proud to bring a program that 4 years ago had less than 15 farmers. This year we'll have over 1,000 farmers producing over $100 million worth of new agriculture products. In the last 4 years, we've raised over $2 million for Kentucky youth ag programs because those programs are essential to continuing the rural way of life that so many of us enjoy. We're also fighting for ag education in the broader sense. There are over 16 million Americans that sincerely believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows and white milk comes from the white cow. Now, when people don't even know that basic fact, then we have a serious problem because food is changing, the consumer is changing, and we need a Commissioner of Agriculture like Ryan Quarles that knows that in order to succeed, we need to diversify and change. There's a lot of work left to be done for Ryan and all of Kentucky agriculture, but I sincerely believe, and I think many of you all will agree, that Ryan is the right man at the right time for the right job. And I just want to say in closing that a lot of us here that travel statewide, thank you so much for coming out and listening to us. Across America and in Kentucky, we have a problem with the lack of political engagement. And so for you all to come out here on a beautiful Saturday, I don't know about autumn days, it feels more like high summer days. But thank you all so much for coming out. And please, whoever you vote for, just go vote November 5th. Thank you so much.
Since I was talking about Christmas, somebody came up and handed me something specifically about Christmas, and I got to let you all in on this. There's going to be a car show that will be for Christmas for the kids. It's sponsored by Central Kentucky Rods and Machines. It's November 29th, 30th, and December 1st. 29th, it's on from 12 to 8. November 30th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and December 1st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Last year, they raised $43,000 for kids to take them Christmas. So that is awesome. Sorry, had to get off on that a little bit. Next up, we've got candidates for State Treasurer, Michelle Bowman, Allison Ball. Cody Patterson, campaign manager for Allison Ball, will be speaking on her behalf.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be here with you all. I live right up the road in Louisville, and it's always nice for a South Georgia boy to get out of the city and be here in what I would call Kentucky. I want to talk to you about Allison Ball, who's our state treasurer, but before I do, I want to talk about a value that's important to all of us as Kentuckians, and that's family. In 1886, my great-grandmother, Effie Lee Carnes, was born in Hopkins County, Kentucky. And at 34 years of age, she proudly cast her vote for President of the United States for the first time as a woman. And I am so proud to be from a legacy of strong women. And she was a funny lady, she was a committed lady, and she had a lot of attitude. And I'm proud to be from a legacy of strong female leaders in my family that set the example for me even here today. So let's fast forward 96 years to 2015 when a young bankruptcy attorney from Eastern Kentucky named Allison Ball ran on a simple platform that she wanted to be a watchdog for your taxpayer dollars. And she went on to win the most votes of any candidate in 2015. She beat the gubernatorial candidates, she beat the candidates for attorney general, everyone. She had the most statewide votes of any candidate. And that to me says a lot about what the people of Kentucky believe about her. And since that time, she's done a lot to manage your taxpayer dollars responsibly and to protect it. Let me tell you 6 things. The first thing is that she's taken our transparency ranking in terms of you being able to see what your government is doing from 24th to top 10. On top of that, she's returned over $80 million in unclaimed property, so that may be lost physical property that your family has in a safety deposit box, it may be stocks and bonds, She's returned $80 million worth to the taxpayers of Kentucky. It's not being held by the government, it's being returned to private property owners where it should be. The third thing she's done is she has cut operations and cut her budget in her office to help save you money so she can do more with less. She has also created a savings and investment program for Kentuckians with disabilities so that they're able to save for the future without threatening the benefits that they receive. She has also created a financial literacy program to help educate our next generation. She told me a story about a high school visit where she was talking about credit and interest and debt. And one of the high school students raised their hand and she said, "Ma'am, can you tell me what interest is?" And that was the moment when Treasurer Ball knew that she needed to do something about educating our next generation on financial literacy. And then last but not least, she's protected us from multi-million-dollar fraud attempts. Just this last Christmas, there was a phishing attack for $5 million on the Commonwealth, and she protected us from that. And I want you to think, just as my great-grandmother participated in a historic and a powerful moment when she had the opportunity to, I want you to send Allison Ball back to the State Treasury to continue doing the great work that she's done over the last 4 years. Appreciate your time and hope you all have a blessed weekend. Thank you.
When you get up here, sometimes you actually mispronounce somebody's name, and so I owe an apology because it appears that I have mispronounced. It should have been Michael Bowman and not Michelle Bowman, so I apologize for that. Next up, we've got candidates for state auditor, and the first one up is Sherry Donohue, the person that corrected me. Come on up, Sherry.
And no, I'm not a teacher. So my name is Sherry Donohue. I am running for state auditor. I come from just right down the road. I grew up in Pleasure Ridge Park. My parents are still in the same house where I grew up. I have a lot of family down this way. My dad did go to basic training at Fort Knox, and he actually has done a lot of work over there in construction work. So this is very much my backyard and where I grew up. So, but as I was growing up, my dad did work in construction, and to help make ends meet, my mom worked at the Navy Weapons Station at the old Naval Ordnance Plant. So I was inspired by her and the people that she worked with. So after high school, I decided I wanted to go into engineering. So I went to Purdue, and in the mid-'80s, not a lot of women were going into the hard sciences like that. So I found I was one of only a handful of women in the engineering school at Purdue. And I have to say that they helped me realize all that I'm capable of. And I have to say that it's fair to say that if it weren't for them and my parents, I would not be standing here today as your auditor candidate for the Democratic Party. So after I received my engineering degree, I went to work for the Navy for 20 years, auditing multi-billion-dollar weapon systems, managing classified intelligence contracts, and basically just making sure our taxpayers got their money's worth, and that our men and women in uniform had safe and effective equipment to protect our nation. A lot of times it required me to stand up to some very rich and powerful people who had billions of dollars on the line, but I did it. And as your next auditor, I will stand up to the entrenched special interest in Frankfurt. Later on, I did some work with the FBI in cybersecurity and infrastructure protection. And I ran a national program for the FBI called InfraGuard of 50,000 people across the country in infrastructure protection. And one of my proudest professional accomplishments was after 9/11, I developed the process that the FBI now uses to coordinate domestic security information. I've been a single mom since my son Ryan was 5 years old. And when he was old enough to go into high school, in order to spend more time with him, I took a job with Humana in downtown Louisville in cybersecurity, protecting our customers' information. So, as I was growing up, I was always taught that we should always give back. And the one thing I always taught my son is at the end of the day, you should look in the mirror and say, what have I done today to make the world a better place? We all have that obligation to make the world better. But I don't have to tell you, we're living in dangerous times. Regardless of your political affiliation or your ideology, people are losing faith in our government. And one of the reasons people are losing faith is because our government's not living up to its moral obligation to put people first. And truly, the cornerstone of our democracy is that people have faith in our government. Faith that government cares about us, faith that government will effectively respond to our needs, and faith that our voices and our votes will be heard and counted. I care about you. As auditor, I will respond to your needs, and I will always listen to you. I'm uniquely qualified to be auditor and to help restore that faith in our government. Under my leadership, your auditor's office will fearlessly search out waste, fraud, and abuse wherever it is and whoever is responsible for it. When I worked for the Navy, I worked under 2 Republican presidents and 2 Democrat presidents. And it did not matter what their party was, I had a job to do, and that was to protect our taxpayer dollars and to make sure our military had effective equipment. And that's what I did, and I will do that as auditor. Some of the things I will do, I will audit the electronic voting machines to make sure our votes are counted. I'm going to modernize and expand our state's IT security audits, because as we know, every day we hear new reports of states, cities, and counties across the country that are being attacked. Like Tallahassee, Florida, they had $500,000 in payroll stolen right out of their accounts. $450,000 were taken as a ransom in order to get access back to their systems in Jackson County, Georgia. If we had those kind of attacks, it could cost us $300 million or more. We can't afford not to improve our cybersecurity. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate the invitation. My name is Sherry Donohue. I ask for your vote on November 5th. I know that together we can restore that faith in government. Thank you all.
Next for candidate for state auditor is Kyle, I may mispronounce this, so you can correct me, Huggenberg. Ken Molman will be speaking for Kyle. Ken, come on up.
Hello, everyone. Oh, that's loud. Sorry. I'll step back a moment. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Vine Grove for the invitation. Thanks for those watching at home. Not all venues have provided the opportunity for the people of Kentucky to hear from all of their ballot listed options. Thank you for engaging in the process. It is extremely important that people take interest in how their government runs. I am here today to speak on behalf of Kyle Huggenberg, who is the Libertarian candidate for state auditor. First, Kyle sends his sincerest apologies for his absence. He is unavailable today. He is out of the country for his job in Vietnam. Needless to say, he could not come back today. He will be back later this month. Yes. So Kyle has spent his professional career planning and conducting audits in a variety of industries, and by resume alone, Kyle is the most qualified candidate. He believes the office needs to be fundamentally changed to a 21st century approach to planning and conducting audits. Kyle Huggenberg will work with the legislature to bring the duties and tasks of the auditor's office in line with modernized, generally accepted auditing practices. This will make the auditor's office and its findings more meaningful to the citizens of Kentucky. In addition to his resume, Kyle's perspective on the role of government and his professional experience give him the ability to make meaningful changes, unlike any other candidate in the race. Kyle is not tied to any political machine other than the Libertarian Party, which applauds his efforts to increase transparency, on how taxpayer dollars, your taxpayer dollars, are spent to expose waste, fraud, and abuse. The overall goal of both Kyle and the Libertarian Party is to do just that. And if elected, this will be Kyle's core focus, modernizing the office and saving taxpayer money. Again, thank you all for the opportunity to be heard, and I ask for your vote for Kyle in November. Thank you.
Next up, we've got Mike Harmon, our last candidate for state auditor. Come on up, Mike.
How's everybody doing today? Good. All right, this is an exciting day. We started out in the parade and we're here, and I appreciate you all are here. My name is Mike Harmon. I am actually your Kentucky State Auditor. I jokingly tell everybody, sometimes I know one individual was talking about the IRS earlier. Sometimes they think we're like the IRS. We're not the IRS. We're actually your auditor. We make sure the government is efficient, effective, and ethical. Give you a little background. I actually graduated Boyle County High School's valedictorian in my class, went on to Eastern Kentucky University where I graduated with a triple major in math, statistics, and theater. I jokingly tell people that way I know the math, I know the stats, and what I don't know, I just act like I know, but that is a joke. That is a joke. I've been truly blessed. I served in the Kentucky House over in the 54th House District for 13 years, actually for the most part in an area that was registration-wise was exactly the opposite. Very small my party, very more the other party. But you know what? When you serve everybody, party really doesn't matter. I was ran for auditor back in 2015 and was blessed to be elected to auditor. The very first thing that I did when I went into the office is I told everybody we don't target anyone, we don't give anybody a pass, we just simply follow the data. Because you know what? Data is nonpartisan. We should not be making this politicized, even though we're elected, partisan. Once you walk through that door, you should be nonpartisan and independent in your actions. We hit the ground running. We've stayed extremely busy. We do 500 to 600 audits per year. We do everything from your counties, fiscal courts, to your sheriffs, your county clerks. We also do the statewide single audit. We also do the CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Finance Report. The other thing that we actually do is we also do a lot of what's known as special exams. So to give you an idea of some of the special exams that we did the first ever audit of AOC. Now, that's not the interesting young lady in Washington, D.C. That's the Administrative Office of the Courts, where we found, among many things, and I will say I'm thankful that the Chief Justice invited us in, but we found, among other things, is that they had actually leased space for one of the justices from a company, and that company just happened to be owned by the justice's two sons, and the bid just happened to be 3 times higher than the next closest bid. So, needless to say, that was one of our findings in the report. We also did an audit of Kentucky Wired, where basically we showed Governor Beshear on the way out the door had flipped the script on the Kentucky taxpayers and took us from a $30 million investment to a $1.5 billion investment on something until just recently had not streamed any data. And even if they get it up, which I hope they do, but if they get it up and running, it will still be hundreds of millions of dollars additional and 3 to 4 years past due in that regards in getting it up. Some of the other things that we've done, we did the very first audit of the CLEP Fund. That's the Kentucky Law Enforcement Foundation Program Fund, where we assured that tax dollars that are meant for police and fire end up with police and fire. And we stay really busy. Jumping back to our county audits, we do a lot of times when we do referrals. We refer to the Attorney General's office, we refer to the FBI, we refer to local ethics boards. And one of the audits that we had was the former Jackson County Fiscal Court. The treasurer just happened to write herself $114,000 in extra money that she was not due. Now, that was a mistake in and of itself, but her big mistake was cutting checks both out of the general fund as well as they had federal grants. And once they wrote out of federal grants, then we had an opportunity to basically refer that to the FBI, which she's been indicted. So we stayed very busy, and I want to close with this. One, it's been an honor to serve. I've had an opportunity to travel this state, meet a lot of great people, and I ran into this one lady, and she said, Mike Harmon, we got a Mike Harmon here, and I said, you do? She said, yeah, but he's a mortician. And I said, well, that's where we differ. Everybody's dying to see him. No one's dying to see the auditor. So we've been blessed, and we appreciate everything. We also like to work with our fiscal courts. We work with our sheriffs, county clerks. Since I had 13 years at Kentucky General Assembly, we've been able to advance several pieces of good legislation to help government be efficient, effective, and ethical. And we've had some bills, Senate Bill 144, that allowed our sheriffs and our county clerks, if they have a clean audit the year before, to get what's known as an agreed upon procedure. That helps them save money and allows us to prioritize individuals better. To find out more, to go to MikeHarmon.com, and we certainly appreciate everything that you all do. Thank you, and God bless.
I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce one of our city council members here. Miss Donna Spankenberger is here. Let's give Donna a big round of applause. Our county coroner, William Lee, is here with us today. And his chief deputy, Kenneth Spankenberger, is here today. So, thank you all. Go ahead. Did you want to say something, Doc? Oh, yes, absolutely. Next up is Rachel Richey. Rachel, come on up.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful to see so many of you here today. The softball game, the Fireverse Police, was a great success, and I'm looking forward to many more successful events to come. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of my mission for inclusion. Whenever I was 9 and in the 3rd grade, I saw kids who couldn't play on a playground like I could and thought it wasn't fair. I then proposed the Rachel is Fun for Everyone project, an organization formed to raise funds for an all-accessible playground. We have since opened the playground in August of 2017, and it is here to my left, over there. Since opening the playground, we have been fighting for the right of play and inclusion ever since. I am now taking on my next endeavor to provide our community with an all-accessible splash pad here in Optimist Park. We could have not have accomplished what we have and are continuing to do without the support of our community. With that being said, I encourage you in the days, weeks, and years to come to make play and inclusion a hot topic. Make it something everyone knows the importance of. Join me in my fight, our fight, to bring play and inclusion to every child and adult, no matter their ability. Because whenever we work together we can change kids' lives. Thank you.
If all of the people that are running for office had as much spunk as that young lady has, you all could move mountains. I want to thank everybody for being here today. One of the folks that originally started this, Mayor Donovan Smith, one of our former mayors, came ill today, and he was not able to be with us today, but he's one of the ones that envisioned this many years ago, and it's a shame that he couldn't be here. We'd like to thank our timekeeper, Britton McDowell. Thank you for being the heavy today. We appreciate that. I'd also like to thank our current mayor, Pam Ogden, for allowing us to have this here today. Our administrative clerk, Jennifer Nelson, and all of the folks from the city of Vine Grove have worked very hard to put this together, build this stage, put all this on. So thank you all for it. And our event coordinator, the last several years of this going on, Pete Countryman has been the one that has put all this together. So Pete, thank you for doing that for us. And I want to thank you as a hometown kid here in Vine Grove, born and raised and grew up here. I want to thank you all for coming out. My name's Bryce Shoemate, and I appreciate your effort in running for office, because I know it is hard to get out there and start doing that and put your name on the ballot. So take care. Have a great day. Thank you, Hardin County Education Community TV, for joining us today.